Institutions are strong when they have independence of action, when they are able to take decisions without being remote controlled. There are 8 characteristics or features of this independence. The first is perpetuity. That institution must have perpetual existence, must be established by law. It's not one that can be scrapped at the whim of somebody. 2, the appointment and composition of the key players there or his directing mind, either the governing board, council, commissioners, whatever name you want to call them. There must be security and stability of tenure. So removal must be difficult and must be subject to the oversight of another body, usually the legislature. The conditions of service, though backed by law, must be robust enough to attract the right kinds of people to go there. Not people who are just looking for anything to do to end up in the place. There must be protection from legal action for actions that they have taken for those institutions. So, for example, if I take an action and I choose to investigate someone who is so politically connected, he cannot say because of that he's going to sue me for steps that I have taken in my official capacity. There must be power to hire and fire the kinds of people that you want to work with. If you have the wrong kinds of people imposed on you, that's a problem. And that's one of the challenges with this electoral process. INEC regularly during elections has to hire what they call ad hoc staff in their thousands. And those ad hoc staff didn't drop from the moon. They are a channel for challenge and compromise. And politicians often position to make sure that their own people are ready to get engaged as ad hoc staff. Then there must be operational autonomy to take decisions without being controlled. And finally, financial autonomy. So if you look at the key institutions, whether it is INEC, ICPC, EFCC, the police, the courts, the security agencies, virtually all the institutions that have anything to do with elections, they meet a number of these criteria, but not all of them. They are all set up by law. They all have people who are appointed into them. But not all of them fall within the rubric of full autonomy. So INEC, ICPC, EFCC, full autonomy. The courts, you can say full autonomy, but not security agencies in particular. They can be hired and fired. I cannot be fired except 2/3 of the Senate supports it. And that's a protracted process. And it must be for my incompetence, or if I lose my mind, which I don't hope to or intend to lose. So it's clear that this autonomy that we're talking about and the parameters, they are there theoretically, but legal independence is different from practical independence. So whereas you may have all of these parameters, there are other challenges. The legal independence is based on what the law says. The law says this institution is established, it should have a governing board, they will not report to anybody, they can take their own actions. Fine, that's legal independence. In practical terms, those you are going to put there, somebody must appoint the people who go there. Somebody will appoint INEC commissioners. Somebody will appoint the commissioners for my institution, ICPC. Somebody will appoint the commissioners for EFCC. You have to trust that that somebody will appoint independent-minded people. Now, oftentimes, who do you appoint? You appoint people that you know. And it is not all the time that the people that you know will turn out to meet all of the characteristics. Sometimes they may meet some. You may know people who actually meet those characteristics, but sometimes they don't meet all of them, and it can create its own challenge. Then there are other practical independence issues. How secure is the tenure? What are the conditions of service? How free can you hire and fire? How secure are the directing minds of these institutions that are so critical to the electoral process from the influence and allegations of very desperate politicians? Because politicians can cook up any story, and all you spend your time doing is defending yourself and your reputation. It's a distraction to you to do your work. Then, of course, the key issue, funding. When and how are funds appropriated? Take, for example, last year, before the elections, we know that INEC was crying, we want our budget approved so that we can procure all the things we need to procure. Meanwhile, the legislature was shut down. But for the pressure of public opinion and the media, the legislature would not have, in between, taken steps to make sure that INEC got within the parameters of the law, because there are set guidelines that are statutory, the number of days that you have to observe in order to do certain things. So when you are talking about funding, it's not just about giving me the amount of money that I need, it's giving me the amount of money that I need on time to be able to do what I need to do. That you can undermine independence by withholding money and not giving it on time. How much power and control over decision making? How fully are those decisions implemented by staff? Now, the people who will work in these institutions we want to strengthen, they are not imported. They are Nigerians. So if you want to recruit for INEC, for ICPC, for EFCC, for police, and you advertise, Nigerians will apply. Those Nigerians are linked to politicians or people who want political office, and it could lead to compromise. So there are all manner of challenges that we need to contend with. Then, of course, how much control, for example, say an INEC, over other agencies that are critical to his own success, for example, security agencies. And then the capacity to prosecute infractions against all of this. So the point I'm making is that apparent legal independence is often not backed by operational or practical independence and the public perception of independence. There are other issues which impact confidence and faith in institutions and help to stabilize them. One of those is the general perception about the rule of law. Now, you read a lot about the rule of law in the papers, on the media and all that, but when you dig deeply, many people don't actually believe in the rule of law. People violate the rule of law depending on the circumstance. Something as basic as waiting for the traffic light. As basic as that. When nobody is watching or looking. Or when people feel that you need to deal with an egregious situation. They can't wait for the law. As a lawyer and somebody who's been involved with this anti-corruption issue for some time, I hear people tell me all the time, you people are doing musical chairs with prosecution. But there's a process. The process says you must charge people to court first. You do investigation, charge them to court, and then you wait for the court to determine. Now that process, I wish and I desire and I fervently work to make sure that that process is not protracted. But sometimes it goes on for years. And people will say it's going on for too long. Then they say that you don't want to do anything. You also compromise. They want you to subvert the law. But we all agree to that law. We agree that that's the process to follow. When you're on the other side, it looks like it's a long process. When you are directly involved, it looks like it's a good process. Because if you are the one being prosecuted, you want the process, every step, to be followed. You want to enjoy all of your rights. But when you are the person waiting to see justice done, sometimes you can be impatient. And so our general perception about the rule of law is a major issue. Then, of course, we have a very weak and dysfunctional criminal justice system. It's a system that you know when you go into, you don't know when you come out. In many parts of the world, you can program, you can predict, you can time, but not in Nigeria. Now, of course, as I said, we are working very hard to make sure that this changes. There are legislations and measures, and at the Presidential Advisory Committee, this was what I spent quite a lot of my time doing, trying to make sure that I reflected on what needed to be done, and of course, how to get the process to move without breaking the law, without diminishing the public perception, and ensuring that justice is done. Then, of course, you have the role of the media. And the role that the media plays cannot be overemphasized. But it's important how the media selects the agenda. Because if the media does not properly articulate what is in the public interest, they are going to equally be victims of the outcome. There's no doubt about it. There is no doubt about it. So it's important that in playing that role, all institutions, including the media, are conscious of the consequences. Then political parties, I talked about political, I mentioned that political parties right now are the vehicle through which you can contest for public office. Many people will wish that independent candidature will be allowed, and I think ultimately that will be the case. Because one of the things you will find, especially about rebellion against parties by candidates, is that many candidates believe they are more popular than their parties. And they feel that they win election because they are popular in their own area of context. And so they can dare the political party. So Basically, political party discipline died long time ago. The parties are struggling to control their own. And until we get to the point whereby the parties, as anticipated by the law and the constitution, can set the agenda and determine. That's why you have things like chief whip in the legislature. People who are supposed to guide, what their members do. But members do exactly what they like. They tell themselves also, we fund the party. Whether from their money or stolen money, that's a different issue. But they hardly conform or listen to the police. And one of the reasons for that is what I said earlier on. Sometimes some people feel that they are so powerful and they are bigger than the institution, whether it's the political party. We've seen governors on video who just gathered people together and said, you will go to the Senate. You will succeed me. you are going to House of Rep. And they tried to become self-fulfilling prophets because they have made those declarations, and as far as they are concerned, they are imperial. Okay, nobody can challenge them. When they want to do whatever is called the primary, if there's a primary at all, because in some places they didn't even do the primaries, then they try to orchestrate the result to meet what they have said, because they cannot be seen to lose. Okay, and that's one of the things that has created crisis in some of the political parties and in some states. So the role that political parties play is critical towards diminishing corruption, because the example I've just given is also corrupt. It's abuse of power. When you just, because you are a party leader, you are the governor, you just stand in front of the people, start looking at them and say, okay, you will succeed me. Or sometimes you just make a pronouncement, well, I don't know who will succeed me, but I know who will not. Okay? So when you make comments like that, you have set out to frustrate somebody that has an ambition that you don't like and you don't tolerate. And all of this adds to the crisis and the problems. Because then when they try to impose their will, they use including trying to corrupt the entire electoral process. Then, of course, there are other things associated with this, one of which is the limitation of electoral expenses and, of course, the monitoring of financing of political parties. They go together. The law tries to limit, but it's unrealistic. And it's very difficult to monitor, to investigate, and to prove. But you can see that people are spending beyond and above the statutory limit. These are areas that, of course, we obviously need to review. And the more we introduce technology, the more we innovate, the more we will de-emphasize and diminish the role of money in party politics.